Okay, I think it's about time we started because everyone has got on nice and early. So this particular webinar is our Manifesto Master program, and it's something that certainly got an enormous amount of curiosity going for me personally in my life, and I'll tell you a bit of the background about that in a moment. So the idea here is really to open a door, open a different door, open a new door, start to think in different ways, So if we start thinking in different ways, therefore we can start opening new doors, new opportunities, and new awarenesses as we open those doors. So here are the things that we're going to cover today. The first thing that we're going to cover is, how does our blueprint determine what we manifest? Now, when I mean blueprint, I essentially mean our thinking, our neurology, what forms our beliefs, our values, our meta programs, our memories, our decisions, our language filters, and all the filters that make up how we actually think. So we're going to be going into that. We're also going to be looking at why the world's wealthiest people manifest more. Now, this isn't going to be focused on just manifesting money. This is really going to be focused on manifesting a lot of things. However, I will explore Warren Buffett and many of his friends and colleagues, so you can get a sense of how he actually created the massive enterprise that Warren Buffett has created, and he certainly is a remarkable manifestor. Also, we're going to learn how to open our thinking to manifest what we want. What specific things can we desire, and how can we align our thinking so those things can actually start appearing in our lives, or certainly the stepping stones. So how do we manifest? The science is not a mystery. I know there are many people over the years that have gone along the topic of manifestation, and it starts getting very invisible. The truth is, it is a very invisible science, because you are talking about beliefs and thought, and then you're going even deeper into the concept of attraction. Other people will go even deeper than that and call it vibration. But it isn't actually a mystery. The more and more I went into this space, the more and more I realized that it's actually replicatable once you know exactly what you're doing. So equally, I'm going to talk about how I specifically started manifesting more money. Now, that was the first area of my life that I really wanted to change the game. So I'll show you how I did that. So what stops us actually from manifesting, and how to open the golden door of manifesting, and how do businesses actually manifest more. I'm going to put this in a very pragmatic way so you can understand it. So it's not airy-fairy or way out there or woo-woo. Sure, I will cover some of those elements, but most of it I want to keep it very pragmatic. So first of all, to start, let's look at the evolution of manifesting, and we look at it from three perspectives. So the first perspective is ignorance. The second level I'm calling intelligence. The third level I'm calling innocence. So essentially, when we look at these three areas, here are the sort of statements that you would expect from people, and these just, of course, give you a bit of a guide as to what keeps people stuck in these quadrants and what creates liberation out of these quadrants. So the first is, ignorance is manifesting as crap. It could be, you have to work hard to get anything in life. Another statement could be, I only believe what I see with my own eyes. So, there are areas, sectors of, the world where people are very much quite, in my view, pardon my statement here, but I believe that they're very ignorant. They're just completely unaware that there is another world at play, let alone even the psychological world that's really stopping them from creating what they want in life. Now then, the way to get people out of ignorance is really to give them intelligence, that is, give them knowledge so that they can grow. But equally, intelligence can keep us equally just as stuck as ignorance. So one could be, look, I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want to do anything that's going to make me look foolish in front of my peers. So, what would such and such think? If they knew that I was talking about manifesting and all that sort of blah, 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 equally, it may be prove it. Prove my intelligence is incorrect and actually prove it. And I could remember in the very early days of, going through this as a science, there were many people who basically wanted me to actually prove to them that I could manifest anything. And it started getting quite ridiculous, in all honesty. Some of the things they expected me to manifest was, bordering on entertainment. So the next level, which is really what I call, the peak of actually manifesting, it's a sense of innocence. And, it's kind of like, who knows? We don't know everything. And I certainly believe that to be completely true. As far as humans are concerned, in the context of the history of the world, we really don't know a lot about how the world really works. So another statement might be, I'm open to a better, smarter, expanded way of thinking. And then, of course, it could be, they once said that the world was flat. So the bottom level is more closed thinking, absolutely closed. The middle level is quite fixed on certain ideas, and the top level is quite open. So that's, in essence, why I call it, innocence, the level of innocence. So we open ourselves up to creating more. And funny enough, children are amazing manifestors, and I find sometimes adults, as we get older, as we become more jaded, as we become more knowledgeable and stuck, we become far less open and far less childlike. So to manifest, there is a kind of an innocence about it, or a childlike element about manifesting. So here was one thing that I wanted to manifest. This is where I currently live. I wanted to be able to live in a place that had a healthy environment. I could surf a lot. I could really enjoy creating in a space where I have the opportunity to create and then stop and chill or relax, or do some exercise. So surfing is certainly my thing, and this is what I wanted to manifest. I didn't know where this was in the world. Originally, I was thinking about moving to Hawaii. That was one choice. And I began, once I put it out there, that's what I wanted in my life, I then started looking, and we'll go into the actual practical ways that you manifest things. So this was my first major, well, not my first major manifestation, one of my larger manifestations. So my first manifestation was money. I manifested a huge amount of money, and my life changed enormously. So this is me, by the way. My name is Rick Schnabel. I'm the Director of Training and Coaching for Life Beyond Limits, and I'm an accredited NLP trainer, also an accredited life coach trainer and speaker trainer and trainers trainer. So what I essentially did, this was, again, another one of my early manifestations. It was a company called Life Beyond Limits. I since have created a couple of other companies which are joint ventures with people. Digital Wisdom is where we store all our digital products. Coach Business College is where we teach life coaches the business of coaching, which I think is a big, big gap. Breakthrough is a 2-day event which we run, which teaches people neuro-linguistic programming and really how to break through in their lives. Equally, here are our programs. That's our Career and Life Mastery Level 1, our Masters Program Level 2, our Speaking with Confidence Level 3, and our Trainers Training Program. So these are examples of manifestations. These were all ideas. Of course, some skills had to come in order to create these. Of course, some time had to happen in order to create the time to build them. But these are replications of manifestations. So are these. We weren't originally accredited as trainers, but many of our students wanted to have an actual accreditation to put their certification to. So we manifested that. I equally manifested a number of books over the years and many products. And here is an example of some others. We have now produced hundreds of products, all sorts of different products, with the intention to move people forward. So that's the intention, and here are the manifestations of those things. So here are some other gentlemen, and these people are, you know, essentially what I would call not the 5 richest people in the world, but certainly 5 of the wealthiest people in the world. You know, these people see things that many people do not. You know, there is something that they have been able to see, something that they have been able to understand that many people do not understand. So I'd like to unpack that a little bit. So the first thing is that if we think about how they look, each of those gentlemen, they look further, they look longer term. You know, many people, I believe, grow very small businesses or grow very small ideas or manifest in a very small way, often because they think too small or they think shorter term. In Australia, for example, as compared to, let's say, the United States, people have much, much bigger visions often in the United States than they do in Australia. You know, in Australia, I think many Australians, we think very small. You know, so equally, many of these people, they look bigger. You know, that is, they don't physically look bigger. They have a bigger vision, and equally, they look deeper into what they do. So therefore, they become more resourceful. What I mean by that is what they do is they begin to think about really what can they create, and then they look deeper to find out all the ways that they can create that, manifest that. So they tend to become more resourceful because they look deeper. They also look wider. They look at what the wider world is doing, not just in a small isolated spot, you know, in their geographic location, but they tend to look wider. So if we sum that up, their vision is expanded, their mindsets are positively opportunistic, but there is something more that most will never see. So if we look at Warren Buffett and we look at his thinking in 3 to 4 ways, what we get is essentially, first of all, for him to, you know, basically create Berkshire Hathaway, for example, he had to have an idea for that in the first instance. That's the basis of all manifestation. We think about an idea, or we see an idea, or we get a sense of something, and then we create a vision for it, which is really the way forward. And then, of course, we have to create a system for it in order to build upon a foundation. But it all starts with a belief. So what happens is, as we begin to grow this idea, we learn as we build it, and when we build it, we earn. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about this idea. We learn, then we earn. So when we think about it in another way, here is a concept that I call my success system. And it all starts with attitude, you know, getting the right attitude before you create something. Then determining what is the very next step or the very actions that need to be taken in order to manifest. Then what skills do we need to build in order to be able to manifest? And finally, what systems will ensure that we can keep manifesting over and over and over again? You know, and that could be a business system, or that could be a system of perpetuating that which we wish to create. So in essence, the attitude, in my view, when we talk about manifesting, is the most important part. When we have the right attitude, we will take the right actions. We will then build the skills through taking the actions, and then we will systemize the actions in order to perpetuate what it is that we're creating, but our attitude forms 90%. A large majority of manifesting is all about attitude. What sort of attitude do we have? Because the truth of the matter is, when we first decide to create something, it is not there. It is not in our reality. So what we need to do is we need to place it in our reality by an attitude. So let's explore what Warren Buffett did. The first thing that he did is he read Benjamin Graham's 1949 book, The Intelligent Investor. Then what he did is he sought him out and he studied under him, and eventually he was mentored by Benjamin Graham himself. Then in 1956, Buffett formed the company Buffett Partnership Proprietary Limited. And utilizing the techniques that he learned from Graham, he was successful in identifying undervalued companies and became a millionaire. Now, Warren Buffett is well known for this now. He is a master of really working out what is the value of something. And he can tell you if a company is undervalued. He can tell you equally if a company is overvalued. So that is his expertise, which he built through the actions that he took. And we're going to break this down even further. So today his net worth is 66.7 billion US dollars. So started off, of course, with an idea. It led to a vision. He then systemized it, but it all started with a belief. So if we think about this, this is how we can move to a manifesting type of thinking. So the first thing that Warren Buffett did is his belief that the sort of success that could be created was possible. It had to start with a belief, and he built that belief through reading Benjamin Graham's book, because Benjamin Graham had actually created an enormous wealth and created a lot of success, and Warren Buffett knew from his book that it could be done. So he built his belief. So what he needed now was he needed an idea. So he found ideas by studying Benjamin Graham and being mentored by him. So he was building an idea, and of course then his vision was created by now creating his own company and creating a vision for what that could look like years from now. And of course his system is still the system that he uses successfully today and has for a lion's share of his life. So in essence, what is happening, but what is occurring is it's creating this incredible opportunity to replicate over and over and over again the actual system. So that's how he created the 66.7 billion. So manifesting is actually a psychological business science. So when we think, where does it start? Of course, it starts with our beliefs. So our beliefs are essentially a mirror of our lives. So my life was equally a mirror of my life too. So what I wanted to do is I knew that there are many people who are hugely successful, and I knew that there was a way to become successful too, by perhaps following what they did, following their businesses, following their ideas. But I discovered as I began to read, it was more than that. Now, one book that I read was The Science of Getting Rich, by Wallace Wattles. Great book. It opened up my thinking. I read Lenanda Carroll's The Architecture of Abundance, The Biology of Belief, Bruce Lipton, The Secret of the Creative Vacuum by John Davison, Wayne Dyer, the late Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention, Albert Einstein, The World as I See It, Deepak Chopra's Creating Influence, Think and Grow Rich, The Power versus Force, Intuition by Osho, The Magic of Conflict, Essential Elements, Atoms, Quarks, and the Periodic Table. Then something happened. I read this particular book, Awaken the Giant Within, and I started to be introduced to a world which became known as neuro-linguistic programming. I then found this particular gentleman who was quite successful in the UK. Tony Robbins, of course, very successful in the USA. Paul McKenna in the UK. And then this particular gentleman, a man by the name of Christopher Howard, and he wrote a book called Turning Passions into Profits. And so I essentially followed Warren Buffett. You know, I did the same thing. I then studied NLP under Christopher and a number of others. And I started to build my knowledge of all the ways that we manifest. And I wrote my own book on the topic called The Secrets of Creating a Life Beyond Limits. So what it was essentially, it was many of the things that I was doing that was really changing my life. Much of it came from my thoughts. So as a result of that, there was a gentleman that I helped. His name is Warren Fraser. And he said, Rick is beyond all the common stuff we have been used to. And he brought me into another dimension. And literally, folks, it is another dimension. He then said, Rick empowered me to write my first book, Manage Your Own Career, Reinvent Your Job, Reinvent Yourself. I then became the resident career coach on a leading Melbourne radio talk show. And Warren has become hugely successful in his own right, largely teaching people how to get out of their current career into a new career and manage their own career. He has done that very successfully himself. And I taught him essentially the law of attraction and how to create abundance in his life and how to manifest. And I think he's done it very, very well. This particular gentleman, unfortunately, I do not have a picture of him at the moment, but he was actually my first student, and his name is Vlad Platil. And he said, at first, you expanded my paradigm of what is possible, a very key, important point. Then you shifted my thinking and helped me to double my income. Now, I can recall working with Vlad. Essentially, I helped him in what was, I think it was a 20, 30-minute conversation with him, teaching him how to shift his thinking. And I used a particular way that, you know, became almost a signature for how I help people to really shift their thinking. And in that moment, Vlad had actually shifted his thinking or his belief of what it was possible. And so that's how he doubled his income. I remember how excited he was the next time I saw him. And by the way, a lot of the time when I've worked with people, they're kind of excited and shocked at the same time. So it's a very interesting emotion. So what we need to do is we need to begin to open our minds to accept more. You can see when we start going down the intelligence line that this could start creating a problem. You know, some people start thinking, well, I will not be scammed, I will not be fooled, I will not be led down the garden path. Well, folks, you know, there are many things that we're not completely aware of how they work. So I do ask you to open your mind. You know, otherwise you're going to reject an alternate life than the current life you're living. So unfortunately, this is where ignorance will stop people listening, and they'll remain ignorant, of course, you know, because some people will not open their minds because they have too much fear around what will happen. So let's go into how we actually manifest through our blueprint. So what happens is we have data comes into our senses. That is largely how we tell the difference between what is real and what is not. So what occurs is the information goes through our language filter. So what words we can understand can go into our thinking. What words we hear goes into our thinking, of course. What words and language we do not understand will not go into our neurology. And there is a new language when it comes to manifestation. So we have to start thinking about opening our thinking to start accepting new concepts and ideas. And that's exactly what Warren Buffett did when he read Graham's book first off. So our memories also will teach us what is possible, what is not possible. Then our values determine what's important and what's not important. And our beliefs determine what comes into our thinking and what we completely reject. Our decisions are really a manifestation of many of those filters, where we decide what we're going to do next, in the next second, next moment, next year, and our meta programs determine how we're going to do it. So these things create what we call an internal representation. So the event comes into our neurology, goes through those filters. We then create meaning, an internal representation. It then flows to turn to a state, like an emotional state. And our state determines what is possible for our physicality and what is not possible. Then our physiology adjusts to the state, and then of course it creates our actual behavior. So what we know is that we delete, according to a gentleman who wrote Flow, a chap by the name of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He wrote a book called Flow, and he deduced that we delete, we also distort and generalize around 1,999,993 bits of information. There are 2 million bits of information that come into our knowledge every second, come into our senses every second, but we're deleting the large majority of them. So the language, it needs to make sense. The memories, we're asking ourselves, is it safe according to our memories to take action? Does it meet our values? That is the information coming in. Does it meet our values? Is it interesting enough? The beliefs, do we actually believe it? The decisions, that is, we actually will make a decision based on all that data and information, and then we act according to our personality, you know, and how we actually engage with the event. So this happens on a regular basis. So the question is, where does this all come from? Well, most of it comes from our thoughts and our beliefs, and much of it was developed in what we call the imprint period, which was when we were born to around 7 years of age. So I'll give you an example. Here are some conversations. And I hear this in shopping centers a lot. Lots of parents, when children will ask for things, lots of parents will say statements such as this: we don't have the money. So how a child interprets that is, if they have enough understanding, they'll either conclude that we have no money, or they may even conclude that we are poor, or we're poor. So the parent might say, I said no, you can't have it. Now the child might even conclude that they don't love me, you know, so because if they love me, they would give me everything I ask for, you know. So now these are just some conclusions that a child could come to. So if the parent might say, well, look, maybe Christmas if you're good, then the child might assume, well, I must be bad now because I've got to wait till Christmas if I'm good to actually get it. Or they might conclude that Christmas is the only important time of the year, or the only special time where I'm treated like I'm special. So the parent might say, do you think I'm made of money? Then the child might say, well, we're definitely poor. They might say, are you stupid or something? So naturally, a child might think I'm stupid. If you ask me one more time, you're going to wish you were never born. So the child might conclude I'm bad, I'm stupid, I'm poor, and they hate me. So, you know, this might sound crazy as an adult listening to this, but the truth of the matter is that there are many, many children who have created these deductions, made these decisions because of the filters of their thinking, because of the repetition of some of these statements in their lives, and they've concluded all these things. So they are now an adult with many of these decisions in their neurology, which determines what happens, and they become our systems. So when we talk about belief systems, that's what we're talking about. So a belief essentially turns into certain thinking. Let's call it thoughts. And those thoughts, of course, turn into certain feelings. And those feelings turn into certain vibes. I'll call them vibes. You know, many people might call them vibrations. We also call it sympathetic resonance, and I'll go into that a little deeper in a moment. But our beliefs determine our thoughts. Our thoughts will turn into feelings. Our feelings will create vibrations, and it'll go back again into a loop. So what happens is, in essence, it becomes a system, and it locks us into a certain way of thinking. So they're belief systems, and these belief systems determine how we think and how we behave. So now we create the vibes or the vibration that is with our thinking. You could, a very pragmatic way to think about this is, it's almost like a person shaking in fear. So a physical shaking in fear is creating a vibration, but it's very, very easy to see. But there are many resonances or vibrations that we actually can't see. You can hear it in a person's voice when all of a sudden a person's doing this with their voice. That's a vibration. You know, whereas you get another voice, that's another vibration. You know, and we can draw conclusions and create meaning based on what we're hearing. You know, they're very evidence-based vibrations, but there are many vibrations that we cannot see. Here is one, for example, a tuning fork. What happens is, musicians know this very well, and it is called sympathetic resonance. When a tuning fork begins to vibrate, and if it is exactly the same as another tuning fork, it will move that vibration through the air. It will hit the other tuning fork, which is tuned exactly at the same resonance, and it will bring about a sympathetic vibration. That is, the way to summarize this is, like attracts like. So what happens is, equally, if you hit the E string, a well-tuned E string on a cello or a guitar, or, you know, some other string instrument, the string will vibrate, and it will, and the vibration will move through the air until it finds its twin. And so what it's doing is, it's vibrating the other string. So this might be starting to get some of your neurology opening up right now. So, you know, what we have is, it forms essentially patterns. Here is a visual pattern that we can see, and, you know, equally, if we put a drop in water, we would get a pattern from that vibration. Here is another pattern. You know, this is an attraction pattern. You know, so what we get is, people are attracted to each other through similarities more than difference. I know that some people say that, you know, people complement each other, but typically most people are attracted first by their similarities, not their differences. So what they'll do is, you know, it might be the same language that we use, the same physiology that we demonstrate and display, the same books we read, movies we watch, the same sort of belief systems. And so that's a very physical aspect of like attracts like. So the truth is that we manifest all the time, you know, though many probably wish that they hadn't. So there is good manifesting and not so good manifesting. You know, for example, you know, there are 1 million people who die from suicide each year. Now, that is a manifestation. It's a manifestation of thinking. Now, what typically happens when a person commits suicide, it is largely their thinking, which is turned to a certain feeling, and then it turns to a certain vibration, and it attracts certain things. Let me give you an example of that. Many people who get themselves very sad will typically watch sad movies, listen to sad songs, read sad books. That's a manifestation of attraction. So 45% in the world will experience a mental health condition. So I equally believe that our health conditions, our mental health conditions, are largely attraction-based. 1.6 million people will die from violence. Now, I know some of you will probably say that, you know, no one deserves to attract violence into their lives, and I agree with you. However, some people draw violence to them, you know, by responding to violent people in a certain way. You know, some people just move away from violent people and never attract violence in their lives. I hope you get what I'm saying. I'm not intending to be rude to anyone, you know, watching this. So the other is that 1 in 13 people suffer from anxiety. Anxiety is equally manifestation. 100 million people died from smoking in the 20th century. Now, that's a classic form of manifestation. You know, if they chose not to smoke, how would they die from smoking? They just wouldn't. You know, 100,000 children run away from home each year in the UK alone. That equally is a manifestation. Let's call it by bad attitude or bad parenting or the circumstances that happen. But even as children, we do manifest things in our lives. Now, I know that equally some of you might be saying, oh no, that's terrible. Children don't deserve that. Again, they do not deserve to have a life, you know, away from home, as many kids in the UK do. But we are manifesting all the time. So the sympathetic resonance, for example, boozers attract boozers. You know, often you will notice that many people that get drunk, I know some people get drunk on their own, but many people will get drunk together. And what happens is they will attract each other and therefore keep that sympathetic resonance. You could equally call it rapport. They build that level of rapport with the other person and they drink for drink. So when they drink, the other drinks, and they just keep drinking together until finally they get to the point that they're both totally sozzled. Equally, anger attracts anger. Very seldom do you see individuals on their own angry. You know, typically they will be angry at somebody or at some people. They'll, you know, create anger in tribes. You know, in the prison system, the police system and so forth, you know, tends to attract a lot of anger because there's a lot of people very frustrated with their circumstances. And that frustration really does draw anger to you. I could talk for hours about this, but I just want to give you a bit of a snapshot of this rather than going into too much detail. So equally going back to these gentlemen, you know, ideas attract ideas. Joint ventures attract joint ventures. Business attracts business. Wealth attracts wealth. Money attracts money. So these people attract. Now, the truth is that, as Jim Rohn rightly said, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most of your time with, because like attracts like. You know, I'm not saying right now get rid of all the friends that you have around you if you're not happy with your circumstance. But the truth is, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. You know, give them the same books that you read. You know, direct them to the same programs that you learn from. You know, and help them to change as you change. You know, and that's how you can all work together. But sometimes your friends, just like crabs, will keep you in the same pot because like truly attracts like. So let's go into it a little bit further. Now, getting into the psychology of it, manifesting really begins with a system called the reticular activating system. It's, you know, what you saw glowing in the very core of the brain or at the very top of the stem of the brain. So I've always said that we see what we believe and we believe what we see. You know, so it's essentially our reticular activating system activating. If you believe you're going to be hugely successful in whatever area you're in, and regardless of your current circumstances, if you truly believe that, your reticular activating system will see opportunities after opportunities to start meeting that way of living, that way of being. You know, so the sympathetic system is a manifesting system. So I essentially call it the 4 Ps if we're building it from the ground up. If we look at it, what we're talking about firstly is a promise, you know, or an intention, you know, what it is that we want to create, you know, and then we've got the actual thing that we create as a result of it. You know, let's call it in a business system, a product, you know, something that we create. And then, of course, you know, we'll have to put some sort of price upon it, and then we'll have to create a place so that the money can go in that particular place. Now, if you do not have one of these elements, then you do not get the end result of the money, for example. So if we look at it from the context of an individual, what we're doing is our promise might be, I'll work for you. The product is you, of course. The price is what you think you're worth. And the place that your income goes to is your bank. So that's essentially a sympathetic system. It's your promise saying, you know, I'll work for you, or your promise is, I'll be the best employee you've ever had. The product is, you know, you and all your skills and talents and abilities. And the price, that is what you attract, is based on what you think you're worth. And if you do not have a bank, there's nowhere to put that money. Of course, most people will have a bank account, and that's where the money ends up. So that is the manifestation of the promise or the intention. So let's look at this in a business sense. So let's say, look at Google. Now, Google, their promise was not to be evil. So very funny promise, I know, but their promise was not to be evil, not to be, you know, deceptive, and not to have heaps of advertising, or, you know, on the actual websites, you know, the browsers. Keep it very simple, and so, you know, essentially they were going to be quite honest. You know, I know there are many people that are arguing, is that still at play? Well, you know, I think Google are doing a good job, but their product was a very simple search engine. Their price was very attractive. It was actually free. Now, their place was their bank, of course. In 2014, they put about 66 billion in that bank. So, you know, in essence, what we're doing is, even with a business, is we're creating a promise, then we create the product that meets the promise, then we put a price on it, and then we have a place for it to go. So in the formal stages of manifesting, it's the 4 P's: your promise, your product, your price, and your place. You know, if we're putting it into a very commercial realm. So equally, what we get is that a positive and healthy money mindset will lead your reticular activating system to see opportunities. So what will happen is, if your mindset is very positive and healthy, then what will happen is you'll start to see opportunities. Now, if we have fear, which is not healthy and certainly not positive, if we have doubt, if we have cynicism or uncertainty or any of those sorts of energies in our thinking, then what happens is it is very, very difficult to then manifest the opportunities, because it will shut down, it will literally physically shut down many of our systems, and therefore we will not be able to create that which we want. So, for example, as far as vibrations are concerned, did you know that the Earth's magnetic resonance vibrates at the same frequency as our heart and our heart rhythms and brainwaves? So we are certainly very connected to the Earth. We vibrate at the same level. Now, let's take this deeper. If we look at passion, we need to start at a level of heart. We need to have a desire or something in which we wish to create. So that would be the fire element, you know, our actual passion. So we might have something that we wish to create. So therefore, we have an idea, and that is, it comes out of our heart and it begins to become an idea. That's our air energy. You know, that's very much thinking. And thinking, if you consider it, it's really an idea which is up in the ether, up in the air. It is not yet grounded. It has no formal shape yet. You know, in our imaginations, yes, but in our reality, no. So what we need to do is we need to ground it. We need to earth it. So that's when we start putting blueprints together, or plans, or, you know, ways of making it a real, you know, reality. And in order for it to keep moving, you know, to get to its ultimate, is we need to have stepping stones. And that's water energy. You know, it's what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi spoke about in flow. And we will know this really, really well. I just finished reading Keith Richards' biography, which, by the way, was very good, his book called Life. And one thing that he often says, you know, is that he just wasn't even conscious of playing guitar. Now, some people would argue he was hardly conscious at all in his early days, and yes, he did partake in some interesting substances. But the thing is that, you know, his art became him. You know, it's kind of like when you no longer do the dance, but the dance does you. That is about getting into flow. You know, it's about taking the steps without fear and just taking what you intuitively know to do and just keep going until you get good at it and you really master it. So the conclusion is really sympathetic resonance. What we've got to do is we've got to be the person that we choose to be in the future now. Whatever we think we want to be, then we need to act as if now. We need to be the person that we choose to be in the future. So we need to have an image of that, and we need to believe that it's possible, and we need to act as if it is happening now. So it's really about thinking and then acting as if, and then being that person and becoming that person. So if you look at it as a structure, if you're manifesting something as a physical shape, or you're manifesting something that you want to attract, you've got to think it like you have it. You've got to act as if you have it, and you've got to become it now. So therefore, it happens much, much easier. And essentially, what we get from the law of resonance, there is also another law called the law of polarity. Now, the law of polarity is that everything has an opposite. This is the interesting thing that I often find when you start the game manifesting. Often the opposite of what you want shows up. So we're either drawing or repelling things from our lives. So, for example, in order to earn, we need to learn. So essentially what happens is, if we are sad, and what we want to do is we want to become happy, being sad is actually repelling happiness. It might be repelling comments, you know, likes on your Facebook page, or, you know, people with favorable comments, or even people, you know, who are very happy. You know, they say misery has company, and it's usually a whole bunch of people who are miserable. So we will not find ourselves in happy circumstances when we're sad. We are repelling those things from our lives. But we are drawing sadness, we are drawing non-likes, and we are drawing to us some particular sense of down or unhappiness. So we're either drawing or repelling things. Now, if we change, if we decide to be the opposite, which, by the way, for most people is a very challenging thing to do, to go from very sad and go, oh no, I'll just be happy instead. Because of the way our brain works, it is not an easy thing to do. And I certainly know that through teaching neuro-linguistic programming. You know, it sometimes takes us a few days to turn a person around from being sad all the time to happy, through many of the programs that we do through that program. Pardon the pun. So if we choose to be happy, what happens is the opposite is true. It all spins around. You know, we are repelling all the sadness elements and drawing into our reality all the happiness elements. And the hardest thing to do is do the opposite of what you think is real in your life right now. And, you know, I totally respect that. It can be the hardest thing to do. So, for example, where we're actually at is we're either in a love space or a fear space. So we can, by the way, even though the fear is on the repelling side and the love is on the drawing side, they can be on the opposite side as well. We can repel love equally as we can repel fear. and we can draw love equally as we can draw fear. So what essentially happens is, if we love money, for example, if we really love it, if we think money is fantastic, then what we'll do is we will draw it into our lives. So what will happen is one will be repelled and one will move away. But see, we can equally fear money. And so what happens is we can repel money from our lives and not draw it to our lives. So we are either doing one thing or the other. We are usually drawing something and repelling another. And typically, at first, what I found is when I first went through that corridor and opened that door and began to change my thinking, it seemed like lunacy. You know, I think from memory, I had $100 or $120 in my bank account. I had $70,000 of debt, and I turned it completely around. But my logic would have said, you are a lunatic, you are crazy, you know, because it certainly can feel that way or feel that way. So in essence, you know, people essentially don't attract money due to their beliefs and their values conflicts. So these two filters, largely, whenever I'm working with anyone to help them improve their wealth consciousness, I'll usually focus on the values and beliefs filters mostly, because they're the filters that we really need to change in order to change a person's blueprint, to change what they attract, you know, and what comes into their life. So they are definitely the most important things. So how we see is what shows up. So if we believe, for example, that the world is violent, then what shows up is violence. If we believe that the world is full of love, then what shows up is more loving opportunities in our lives. Now, of course, what happens is we have to really decide what we want. You know, we have to think, do I want, you know, a great relationship? You know, do I want a healthier life? Do I actually want to be really physically fit or joyful? So in order to do that, to manifest, we might need to move our body and certainly our mind, you know, and start shifting our thinking if our world isn't there. Equally, we might need to grow our skills a bit. You know, there might be something that we need to do in order to grow our skills. That's the logical stuff. The amazing stuff is that the opportunities for the skills to grow, for the mindset to change, appear when we manifest, when we actually attract the sorts of lives that we want. So you get it by dreaming again, you know, by starting to dream again, you know, beginning to get to a point where you just decide that you're going to believe again, you know, believe in what is possible for you. And it is totally up to you. And so really at the end of the day, manifesting is a game of what I call faith, focus, and feeling. So what we need to do is we need to have some faith, even though everything, all the evidence that's showing up is anything but faith. We need to have some focus, some very clear focus on where we want to go, and we need to have feeling that matches our faith, that is in what we're focused upon. So the faith, in essence, is even if everything is stacked against you, what you need to build is you need to build faith. Now, by the way, this is where people in the bottom rung, you know, who basically are in the ignorant rung, or people who are in the intelligence rung, will argue against this. They will say, well, how is this real? How's this going to show up? Where's the money going to come from? Where's that great relationship going to happen? You know, and they will argue for their limitations. And as is rightly said, if they argue for their limitations, they get to keep them. Really important. So you need to start to have some faith again. You need to say, okay, my situation is not that great right now. I'm changing the game now, right now. I'm changing my thinking right now. I have faith that I can do this. I mean, let's face it, worst case scenario, you end up with the same life that you have. Best case scenario, you end up with a life that you could have only dreamed of. The life that I have now was a life that I used to think wasn't possible for me. But I had to start from a level of faith, which is a level of beliefs, a whole cluster of beliefs that say it's possible. So the other is focus. So we've got to focus essentially on our wants, not on our not wants. What I mean by that is we're not focusing, like if we're not well, if we don't have great health, we're not focusing on, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be sick. We're focusing on, I choose to be healthy. I choose to do everything I possibly can in order to get my energy up, or in order to get healthy, or in order to get fit, or whatever it is you're focusing on. So you're not focusing on what is not happening for you. That is, you're focusing on, I want that life, that great life. I don't want this life. I want that great life. That's what I'm choosing to create in my reality. So the other is feelings. So what we need to do is we need to maintain a manifesting state. It's no good just having one idea or one thought and think that that's going to change our life. It's not the case. What we have to do is we have to maintain a manifesting state. So here are 4 tips to get it happening fast. The first is state, second is a system, the third are creating some beliefs, and the fourth is to have some naivety about it. Just be okay to be a little naive, and be okay just to say, I'm creating this, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to leave the how out of it for now. I'm just going to manifest it, and the how will show up over time. So, manifestations equally can be a cancer, so a state of lack. So when we're saying, oh yeah, but I'd love to manifest, but there's not enough time, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough love in my life, or I'm so restricted, or chained, I don't have the freedom, I'm so bored with what's going on at the moment, or I don't have ideas, or I'm just not special. These things are just thoughts. These are a whole bunch of thoughts, but these are manifesting these experiences into our lives over and over. But what it's saying, essentially, is it's saying, I'm not enough. But I know some people are saying that we're saying this to the universe. You know what's worse? We're saying it to ourselves over and over again. So, what do thoughts create? Thoughts give you focus. They actually turn your focus in a particular direction. Your focus creates feelings. Then your feelings create energy within you. Your energy communicates, hence vibrations. And these things communicate and draw things to you. So it's our states are essentially what creates our reality. So if you want to manifest, you need to be in the state of the manifestation. You need to get your feelings to a point, your physiology, everything aligned, so you are actually acting as if it is coming tomorrow. Let me give you an example of that. So states are what creates our reality, but some people have become jaded. And this is how we create them. What happens is we watch the news, we watch negative news, or we listen to negative stories, or we hear things on Facebook, or see things, read things on Facebook, and we start to paint a picture of the world which is anything but ideal. And so it determines our state. And all these things create a state within us that keep manifesting these things coming back into our lives over and over and over again. So I'm very selective what I read. I'm very selective to what I watch on television. I'm very selective about the conversations I have with people. And I'm very, very selective about who I choose as friends in my life. And here is an essence of a wonderful manifester. who manifests Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks. And she says, as you practice your more positive, better feeling story, in time, your pleasure will become the dominant vibration within you. And then, as you couple your pleasure with your means of earning, the two will blend perfectly and enhance each other. In essence, you'll create a new pattern. So the truth is, we're either above the line with our thinking or below the line. So the above the line activity is different to below the line thinkivity. So planning a deception, in my view, is below the line. Any deceit is below the line. Thinking ill of someone is below the line. Having an argument in your head is below the line. Fearing an outcome is below the line. If you want to manifest a great life, I mean, these things equally will manifest, but you'll be manifesting below the line. If you want to manifest above the line, you need to think things, feel things, anything that supports your desires, what you wish to create. So, of course, you've got to determine what your desires are and think along those lines, as if it is, absolutely guaranteed it's going to happen in your life. So if you think about it, this equally comes from Esther Hicks, and this comes from Power versus Force, actually, and really good book. Power versus Force started to look at essentially what was ultimate consciousness, how we could actually get to, go beyond love, go to joy, peace, and enlightenment. And Power versus Force started talking about that really the starting point was beyond pride. The starting point, in fact, was courage. When we actually get courageous, we can start moving our thinking up to a whole different level, and it changes our vibration. So those who are courageous, of course, create more in their lives. So it's a really good place to start. So I guess what I'm really asking you to be is courageous. Start from the level of courage and go, right, this is it. I'm creating the life that I want. See, in my view, you're really preparing yourself for the best of times. At one point in my life, I was having a terrible life. But the truth of the matter was, I turned my life around by learning from the worst of times and choosing to have much better times. So, manifesting the 4 Ps, our promise, our product, our price, and our place, what we need to do is we need to start rebranding ourselves. And when we rebrand ourselves, who knows what the potential might be, because it's time to start dreaming again. And the reason that I'm showing you this is look at the excitement in the children's faces. Look how animated children can be. We've forgotten to do this. When we get really excited about life and we start to dream again, then we create a vibration where anything is possible. Question, who gets the most presents at Christmas? That's right, children do. Children are awesome manifestors, because they put on that manifesting energy, and all we want to do is give them everything we can, because they're great manifestors. So you got to decide what you want. Decide what you want to do in your life, how you want to create it, what sort of skills you want to build, and start dreaming again. Start creating what it is that you want to do. Now, here is a manifesto. This particular person had read my book and sent me an email about this, actually just recently. And she said, magic is really happening in my life since I've started reading The Secrets of Creating a Life Beyond Limits. She said, I've had opportunities to do joint ventures, I'm making new fantastic connections, and I truly put it down to a shift within myself due to reading your book. Her name's Danielle Robbins, and she's a leadership coach in Queensland, Australia. And good on you, Danielle, for absolutely trusting in yourself, following the philosophies that I have in the book, and creating the life that you now have. This equally is another coach. She said, uncannily, I seem to be in the right place at the right time. So far, I have a sponsorship deal, 2 new alliances, 4 new clients, and it's definitely a newfound faith in myself. And that's Sandy Ewing. She's the founder of Melbourne Life Coaching Australia. So I taught Sandy essentially how to do this, and immediately she saw the values and the benefits. And of course, she's a coach. Equally, you know, you can use this in all sorts of ways. And this particular person, Carrie, she said, before I worked with you on my bird phobia, I was unable to even look at birds. As you can see from the picture, I have a huge turnaround. The work you are doing is truly amazing. It's changing lives. Carrie Angela, chiropractor in Melbourne, Australia, and she had a bird phobia. You know, so we can manifest phobias just as easily as we can manifest freedom. You know, this here was a gentleman who I followed Warren Buffett's advice, and I chose him as a trainer. I chose him as a mentor. This particular gentleman could create up to probably even more these days, but he could create, when I was working with him, he could create up to $6 million in a weekend. Amazing manifestor in a financial sense. And he said, Rick is a perfect example of going out there and working solid principles and transforming lead into gold in one's life. And that's Christopher Howard. Love this man. Fantastic guy, pearls of wisdom. And he trained me, and he taught me certainly how to change my life. So it's about making a promise to yourself. You know, what do you really want? You know, what would you really like to, you know, create in your life? You know, what sort of things? So, you know, is there a connection that you still want to make? Do you want to, you know, create a home, a new home, a new car, or a new life? So what I'd like to do is finish up by essentially letting us help you to do that. So I want to show you our Master Manifesto program, and I'm going to make this really easy for you and as exciting as I can. So I'd like you to join our Master Manifesto program. So what's included here is essentially you get to tap into your heart of hearts and unleash your dreams. So the program, firstly, is to help you do that. Find out what's in your heart of hearts, and there are specific ways that we use to elicit that. It's also to help you stop creating misaligned goals and dreams. Also to learn the formulas to align your goals and your dreams with your values. So we help you to elicit your values and then align your values with your goals and your dreams. Plus, discover how to map out the conscious steps of manifesting. That's about choosing what you want from life and then putting the actual foundation stones down to ensure that you get it. And then, of course, removing any self-sabotage from your neurology. So in essence, it's creating clarity, it's determining what is your truth, and then giving you the tools to start manifesting what you really want from life. Plus, here are some of the bonuses that I'd also like to give you. We'll give you a lifetime access to the videos, the audios, and the manuals, so you can watch them again and again and again, listen to them again and again and again, and go through the program as many times as you like to be able to manifest whatever it is that you want again and again and again, until you train your brain so you can create whatever you want easily. So it's very much an educational program. So equally, some of the things that will stop manifesting are things such as anger, sadness, guilt, fear, and blame. So we will take you through a program to remove anger, remove sadness, remove guilt, fear, and blame. The program is truly worth it just for that. It is incredible how light you can be without anger, sadness, guilt, fear, and blame. Says me, who had an enormous amount of all of those in my life. I'll also give you a copy of The Secrets of Creating a Life Beyond Limits, so you can read the book, and we'll actually post that to you, a hard copy of the book, and also an ebook, so you've got both, and you can start reading from that and learning equally some physical steps. Also, you're going to get some daily manifesting messages and tips to just keep you on track. And you're going to get a $600 voucher for any of our NLP speaker and life coach training programs, should you choose to go down that path and learn even more. You'll also get weekly manifesting magic videos. So they are short videos. They are only about 10 minutes long, and you just watch those, and they'll give you, each week, you'll equally get more and more insights as to how you manifest. You'll also get $497 worth of manifesting magic audios. So these audios you can listen to in your car, you know, on your iPod, on your smartphone, and they're there to rewire your thinking, you know, to change your thinking. There's also some of those are audios that you listen to at night while you sleep that changes many of your belief systems, so it gets easier and easier to manifest. So largely manifesting is more unconscious than it is conscious. And you'll get essentially over $1,500 worth of bonuses. So this is what you'll be able to do. You'll improve your manifesting language. You'll re-imprint your memories. It'll help you to redesign your values, change your beliefs to manifest more, help you to make better decisions, and redesign your actual personality to meet your dreams and your visions. It's something that I really need to share with you right here and now. We can change our personality. And when you change your personality, then your life changes. And personalities can be changed. So the program is $477. This is exceptional value. I'm going to make it even better for you. I'm just going to make it $77. For $77, you get the entire program. It's essentially a 90-day program to change your thinking and turn your thinking around, and you can do this in the comfort of your home. And equally, you can do it live. Those people in Melbourne also will have the privilege to be able to do it live, but it is an online program. And so it's a fantastic program. This is how you do it. You will get an email straight after this webinar, and the link that you will click onto, and that's how you essentially get into the program. And you'll start getting emails into your inbox, and they will give you links to the videos, the audios, the books, and equally the book, The Secrets of Creating a Life Beyond Limits, will be posted to you. So join us on the Master Manifestor program. So essentially just use the link below, and just that particular link there. It's a bit.ly link, so it's a nice short link. And equally, that link will be sent to you in an email immediately after this webinar. So you just click on that, and then you can get straight in the program. I totally urge you to get into this program. I mean, $77 is ridiculous for all the value that you actually get. It's an enormous amount of value, and I really believe that it will be the thing that will turn your life into a life of magic. So you just have to let the program do its work and let you take on the changes as you shift your life and start manifesting some magic into your life. So an email with a special link is in your inbox now. That is the link. Equally, you will get a replay of this particular video. You'll get a replay, and you can come back to this video and you can watch it again and again. And of course, you can just log in to that URL if you want to get into it right away and you don't want to wait for the email to land in your inbox. There it is there. So what I want to say is a huge thank you for sharing this time with me. And the first thing that I guess I really want you to understand from a summary is that manifesting is a practice that all humans do naturally. It is just something that we naturally do. But purposeful manifesting is something that you need to practice, and you need to know the elements and the science behind it. So You can create anything. Truly, you can create anything in your life. You can heal your life. You can shift your life. You can bring about things that were never in your life before. You just need to change your thinking. So thank you so much for sharing this time with me. Please do everything you can to live a life beyond limits. And on behalf of myself and the team at Life Beyond Limits, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate you spending this time with us. Thank you.